I'm going to call this meeting to order, and what we have to do first is add a request that came in for funds from the Miller Fund, and we'll consider that under new business. And that's the only addition to this agenda. We have the minutes from October 28th and November 4th.
I'd move approval of the minutes of October 28th and November 4th.
Okay, any
I'll second
discussion?
that.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There. We have warrants 10, warrants 10P, the payroll, and we have from the Recreation Board, number 4, payment number 4.
Then I guess I would move approval of warrants 10, 10P, and Recreation Board number 4.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, any discussion? All right, and the warrants, warrants number 10, we have Green Mountain Power bills, gravel seems to be the big expense. We have the November contract with Rescue for $3,412. Maintenance, and some people are getting property tax refunds on overpayments that they made. So, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We have no visitors. We should really think about taking, callers, having
Call in.
people can call in from their television, but Michelle Cherrier, our representative to the Windham Solid Waste District, is going
Stepping to the table.
Yes, as we speak.
Hello, Michelle.
And there is-
Perfect timing.
Yes,
Hello.
and you know everyone here.
I do.
Okay.
How are you all? Happy fall.
Yeah.
It's been a very extended fall,
It has.
and I have no complaints. Well,
So thank you for coming in.
yes.
I thought it'd be
yes,
good to have a little update, and
Yes.
we're getting close to our budget season, and
We are.
we've had the recycling law take effect and all sorts of things. A lot of activity down at the Windham Solid Waste District.
Yes, yes, I would have to
Thought
say
you
that's
could
always the
Fill us
case.
in.
And yes, that's rather why I had asked to be on tonight's agenda, because the Finance Committee has been working for a while on the budget, knowing that they need to be a step ahead of all of the select boards, and trying to make sure that there's a good number to hand off, so that as you roll into the budgeting season for the town, we can be prepared. So this particular year, I believe I have attended all of the Finance Committee meetings in preparation for the budget. I don't necessarily think that was the case in all prior years, but the landscape has changed, and I know how difficult it's been for the last several years. So I've been there, and I've seen every iteration that's been prepared and discussed and set aside, and new versions have been created. The district still runs at a deficit, surprisingly, and I say that because the assumption was last year that Act 148 would generate a lot more material coming in. I mean, if people have to recycle, then there would be a lot more material coming into the waste district. And while it's been good, it hasn't been great. And part of that has to do with the fact that because the law requires everyone to recycle. Haulers have to provide the service. And all of the haulers that I am familiar with that service accounts in our district, in Windham County, etc., pretty much offer the service to everyone, and they're all just handling it as single stream recycling, which of course has no place at our waste district, because that's a materials recovery facility that's handling dual stream. Now, that's only for that portion that haulers are carrying, so those recyclables are going somewhere else. And, you know, that's their choice, that's their option. It's probably not an issue for the customers who are using the service. Now, from my own perspective, I prefer to continue using dual stream as long as it's available. The output is a much better product, and single stream has not turned into the real amazing product that was once anticipated, neither in terms of price or in terms of handling recycling. That's not to say it's going away, it's still there, but dual stream is still in the same position it was, I think, when we sat here and talked about it last year and maybe even the year before. But what changed for the Finance Committee is that they looked at other options besides the existing conditions, which is, they said, well, what would happen if, and this is not outside of reality, but probably not this year, what if we didn't do materials recovery? What if we just shut down the plant and acted as a transfer station? What if we don't do trucking anymore, which means we don't put our bins out in all the towns? So that was a budget created and eventually rejected. A similar no MRF, no trucking with reduced hours for the whole operation in terms of customers coming in the convenience center. So there was a difference between how many people would work between those two different options versus what's in existing. And the truth is, as soon as you take away the MRF, you take away, you know, a significant source of revenue, even though you reduce a significant source of expenses. So far, the Finance Committee has remained with the existing operation, and potential revenue increases were discussed as short a time ago as last night. I sat around last night and talked, and I'll sit around again Thursday night before the regular meeting and listen again. Regardless of whether or not the Finance Committee itself says we're going to recommend the existing operation, it will be mentioned to the whole Board of Supervisors, that there were other options considered, so that they know there's a lot on the table. And at this point, I think it looks like existing operations will continue. There are still outside revenue sources besides the district customers, even if not all the recycling is coming to us through haulers. We still take items from out of district, from Wethersfield and from Rockingham and also Chesterfield, New Hampshire. There is a new source from Hillsborough, New Hampshire. That particular customer, I had a note here somewhere that Billerica, Mass had a dual stream MRF that closed. And so that customer was looking for who could take their recyclables, and we chose to take it. And so, you know, the revenue stream is continuing, just not as high as we hoped. Now, some of the things that we also hoped, you know, besides that increased recycling, was that the solar would be moving along a little more quickly, because solar itself, while good for everyone, it's a source of income, because it means that there's a lease being paid. Once it's built and it generates, you know, income, they pay to lease the land for 20 or 25 years. So that's still in the working phase. They're still working on permitting, but What the committee has come up with thus far is a reduction from what was last year's approved budget, which was, at the time, $517,532. And what they're looking at as of yesterday, and again, this could change, is more on the order of $480,659. Pencils were sharpened. There was attrition in staff. There's also been consolidation. There's been some reassigned duties, some titles moved around between people, and that also sometimes has an effect on the rate of pay. So that's where it stands at this exact moment. We are looking at a reduction. So unlike other years when I've sat here and said, gosh, it costs money to do this, yes, it costs money, but pencils keep being sharpened and over-sharpened. So far it looks like we're going to keep separating, you know, the recycling stream in a dual stream fashion. There are still buyers. It's still, you know, reasonably priced. We hope that it's reached its bottom, because it's been kind of bottomed out now for a while. And so maybe we're on the upside now, but it's market driven, so one can never assume that you know.
You began by saying your deficit
Yes.
spending. And so this budget that you're talking about reducing over last year, all that's attractive.
Is an improvement.
Yeah.
It's an improvement.
That continues the deficit.
The hope on the part of the employees in management and the rest of the board is that Bob Spencer is following through quite actively with other towns like Hillsborough, New Hampshire. There was an opportunity, and maybe still is, to be determined, with the Postal Service at White River Junction, because they have an enormous amount of flyer type paper that needs to be recycled, and it doesn't even need to be handled. It just needs to be brought into the facility, run down the line to where it gets baled. And for that, you know, there's income to be made. And those places are farther and fewer between now. So in some ways, the anticipation of more recycling was hoped would carry over to the time when solar would pick up some of the slack, and of course composting operation would come up next. Now, there's no specific work at this exact moment for speccing a compost operation, but that is really high on the list for Bob Spencer to work on. That's coming down the pike by law. And I believe, if I remember Act 148 correctly, that the local area has to use a facility if it exists within their 20 or 25 mile radius. So we take it now. We just don't have a real official modern operation going. Now, part of what plays into that, besides solar, is the fact that we still do have a lessee, the persons who took over what had been Carbon Harvest's lease requirements, which is to maintain the methane gas field, maintain the generator, keep it running. And additionally, their entire focus since the beginning has been to build and run an anaerobic digester. Now, even with invitations from the board, they have not appeared before the board. I can't even remember the last time I saw them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it's uncertain exactly where they're headed right now. I know that they want to maintain, you know, certain criteria for how the solar panels get put on the actual landfill, because they're currently responsible for keeping the gas field, you know, functional. It has to function. But ultimately, even if they step out of the picture for whatever reason, you know, the district is still responsible for that. So But just to let you know, that's kind of at an idle right now. It's not actually moving forward. And solar is inching forward rather than leaping forward. So things are as if we all have our breaths held. For what, I'm not sure. I mean, people still make, recyclables and trash, and so we still just open the doors every day, and the employees, are a good set of employees. They do good work. And that means we still have roll-off bins in towns if we keep existing operations. I see that as important, that service. I know from what little talk I had, what little, I chatted up a few people over at the bins, as I mentioned earlier last summer, and they don't use their hauler. They bring their own stuff. So they really count on those. Now some towns, of course, want them removed. Guilford took theirs out. Brattleboro doesn't want to pay their share. They feel that it's overpriced for the services that they're getting. And of course, they use an entirely different model. They use, curbside pickup. And they build that into their taxes, and it shows in their tax rate. But that's the long and short of it in terms of how the budget looks, how the finances look.
So Michelle, is there any incentive on the part of the Windham Solid Waste District to make it more appealing for haulers to use the district?
It's unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to be so bold in that response, but all the haulers here are traditional smaller businesses.
Mhm.
I mean, some are, very large, Waste Management, Casella, but our haulers locally
Mhm.
can't afford to, suddenly invest in new trucks that can handle two different streams. They are, right now, of course, going through the throes of just even handling single stream
Right,
and getting it to wherever they're taking it to.
right.
So it is unlikely that we will make it more appealing and attractive to haulers, but it's also the belief of the executive director and most of the Board of Supervisors that there's still more market out there. And so that's the goal, is to make sure that we're in touch with that market and also revisit our pricing for what does it cost to tip onto the floor, and all those things, all the pricing. And we can probably modify that. It'd be nicer if we could modify it sooner, but most towns are working under a specific budget they've already passed. But still in all, we're well within the market probably to look at fees. They have not been really revisited and revised for quite some long time. And expenses have changed. So, and we know what's being quoted by other larger haulers, particularly the one that services Brattleboro. So I know that that's how the Finance Committee will recommend it to the Board of Supervisors, and the supervisors will look at it and say, yes, that's probably the way we want to take this. Is just also revisit fees, but not to the point where we're impacting the business so badly that folks want to just suddenly start shopping around.
So I'd follow up on Geraldine's question, because that was in my mind. Several of the smaller haulers are picking up recyclables one week and trash the next
Correct.
week.
Correct.
So I guess I'm confused, or I don't understand why they can't be channeled to our facility there versus where they're going, because they could miss downtown and traffic.
What they're collecting is everything mixed together.
Right, yeah,
All paper, all
Yeah.
cardboard, all glass, all metal.
yeah,
It's all in one.
yeah,
And the district is set up as two stream. It can deal with getting glass and metal all in one stream, or it can deal with getting paper and cardboard all in one. It is not built or designed to handle everything coming in at once. That is a single stream facility, and I don't believe that this district, or at least in my lifetime, will ever change to a single stream. For one thing, you can't do that work manually. Those plants that handle those are enormous, and they're completely mechanized. I've been to 2 or 3, so a lot of money to build those and to keep them maintained. So they can't bring it to us, not unless they're dividing it so that it's suitable for, you know, how it's handled there on Ferry Road.
So it's really the plan on Ferry Road, because it's handled totally different where they take it than you do.
Very differently.
Right, yeah. When I
Very
say you, I mean solid waste district.
Yeah, that particular,
Yeah.
right.
So before the mandatory recycling, did they use the district?
Yes.
And so they've shifted
Well,
away
no,
from
they,
the
when you say they,
the
the haulers,
haulers.
they
haulers.
really weren't.
They weren't using the
They
district
weren't
before
offering
either.
recycling in a manner that was,
No, but the trash. I mean, they
Oh, the
have a
trash?
whole other.
oh, well, they can bring trash to us, but it just passes through us anyway, to
And
the next
it's-
nearest, you know.
I see. It's
It's
the
It's quite a bit more
recycling.
expensive to go through the district than to go
Yeah.
direct where they go, yeah.
Yeah, for any trash that gets brought to us, I mean, we still have to pay to get rid of it, just like a hauler has to pay
Yeah.
to get rid of it.
So you don't.
So-
Yeah. So it's the recycle that.
Yeah. It's all
Is the
based on recycling materials, and of course now there's everything else that gets really unnoticed, but is just as important with all the rest of the services provided. So, and
So-
that's even stronger now, the requirements for that. Whereas I remember there have been towns in the past who looked at and costed out, gee, they wanted to be able to just take care of those things on their own, they didn't want to pay the price for the district. In fact, it would be a hardship for towns, in my opinion, if they had to take on all of the state requirements now. It's really pretty different because of Act 148. And of course, if the MRF closes, I say if, I don't see that in the immediate future, that still means that folks will have to decide, you know, what are they gonna do if they wanna do their own recycling? And then the waste district that we know would become essentially like a transfer station. And we do what haulers do. Either we would haul it to somebody else, maybe a single stream, maybe a dual stream, or we'd have to have it trucked. And those costs would still be part of the assessment. But if they were not part of the assessment, people, our citizens, would still end up paying, just not through their taxes in the town. They would end up paying individually to haulers, to private enterprise. Either way, the taxpayer does pay. It's just a matter of seeing how they pay for it. And it is still the majority opinion of the board of supervisors that the waste district still provides all the services necessary and at a better price than would end up being if we closed it and everybody had to go out to private enterprise. Is that what you were rather expecting to hear, or had you no expectation whatsoever?
Well, I think the other compounding factor is the metal that you recycle is just worthless too, so you don't generate any income from that. I think you charge now to take, or they charge now to take metal.
Yes.
So that can't help either.
Which reminds me, there had been those those wonderful benefits of being able to take certain electronics in, particularly televisions, and not necessarily like computers, but televisions. And that was the producer responsibility, and now producers don't want to try to cover the costs of those collections, and so they're starting to charge waste districts. So our district is now going to end up charging for people to bring those in, whereas they used to be free. So, because we have to pay producers, regrettably. Is there anything else I can tell you about?
When will you finalize the budget? Or when do you anticipate that you'll finalize the budget?
The discussion last night at the Finance Committee meeting was to finalize as early as possible for the convenience of all of the town's select boards. I know that they could take a while. They won't finalize it Thursday night. That will be too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the hope that it would be finalized by that, second Thursday meeting in December,
Mm-hmm.
because that really moves it just to the point where you have to have numbers to work with. Now, I know whatever gets discussed on Thursday night, I would assume that the full board will vote to go with what the Finance Committee recommends. If that's the case, then, we would be looking at, I'm sorry, I don't have the percentage of that, between 5 and 8% less than last year. So if you want to work with a raw number until you get a real budget provided by the district, you're probably safe doing that. I don't see that any town is going to really oppose. Now, the biggest town to be concerned with is Brattleboro, because they hold 4 votes on the board, and I don't know what their reaction will be. I mean, only Brattleboro knows how they really want to handle it. If every other town agrees with the budget, then they would be in the minority. I don't get a sense from either the Finance Committee or the board from the last discussion that was had in October that they really want to change dramatically. They don't see the requirement at this time.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'm glad for the overview. It's great to.
I realized, of course, that when I looked up and saw that the last meeting was on June 10th that I had, it's really been a waiting game to see how Act 148 has affected everyone. I mean, it's still early days in the process. I have heard talk while at the district, not anything I've read, that the legislature is considering perhaps putting some funding towards Act 148. So it won't be completely unfunded, but that remains to be seen. I don't know anyone that has a lot of spare cash, so. I don't see any change in my status at this time. But the only thing I noticed this year after all these years is that there have been a few times in the summer where I wished that I could do something else other than go to the meeting, but specifically something else, not generally. But not enough to say, oh gosh, I really want to step down, but it's even more interesting now than it has been all along. It's certainly a challenge. So.
And is Lester's been pretty good about attending meetings and being
Lester
your backup?
had been more in attendance earlier this year. But I know, of course, you know, he's a working man, and I know that it's a real stretch for him to come to a lot of meetings. So I'm more likely to see him at the full board meetings
Mhm.
every month.
Yep. Well, I think everybody appreciates the work that you do and the work Lester does.
You're welcome. I'll let you know if there's anything to, you know, broadcast on the sound wave here. I kept thinking, gosh, you know, 4 or 5 months, that's a long time to go, but without anything substantive to report, I figured you always have things to do.
There's never a dull moment.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Well, if you come up with any questions or anything,
No, it'll
Do
just be interesting to see the
call.
budget when you get it and
well,
see how they're treating capital expenses. That had been an issue in years past, and
And workers' comp.
yeah, and how this deficit is going to, you know, how are you going to work with that?
yes, indeed, it's a subject every single month.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You do have, there's a reserve
Yes,
left from the capping or the,
yes,
well, for, it's supposed to be for the maintenance of the,
it is,
I've
the
got-
post-closure fund,
yeah.
correct.
Is that your rainy day fund or?
In a manner of speaking,
Mhm.
it has been in the past. We would hope that that's not the case in the future, however, I mean, it's there and available to a certain degree.
Mhm. And is the lease from the solar company, they're going to be owning the arrays and
Oh, yeah.
leasing the space, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and do you have, or does the district have a figure what that, have you already negotiated what that lease will be?
Long ago,
Uh-huh.
I want to say as a round number, $100,000 a year,
Mhm.
which would obviously help assessments.
Sure.
And
It would put, you know, that land to good use.
and who is the solar contractor again?
It is Pristine Sun from California. And they have chosen a local installer to do parts of the project, Integrated Solar, who worked on the project that you see from Route 91, Wind Stanley project. So, and I know that all towns will be contacted by one of the representatives of one of those companies to see if there's any interest in participating as an off-taker. But I won't try to go into detail on that particular subject because it's a specialty unto itself.
Mhm.
So I would certainly recommend it, but it's early days yet. So again, you know, shoot me an email if there's a question. You will certainly get the budget as soon as it's prepared. The staff there is pretty good about turning things around really quickly.
Great.
So
Good.
hopefully you won't be
Thanks.
waiting for us.
Yep.
And you're starting budgeting, right?
Already, you know?
Already, as I thought. Very good. Well,
Well,
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Michelle,
Michelle.
really appreciate it.
I hope we talk again in the near future and that we're talking good numbers.
Yes, you brought us good news tonight.
Good, glad to hear it. All right, very
Okay,
well.
well, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your efforts on our behalf. I guess I'm it, huh?
You're it.
Okay, very well.
All right,
Okay.
thank
See you
you.
soon.
Thanks. Good.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
So any other thoughts on that subject? Well, okay. let's see, I don't think there's a highway report. Do we have any information about the lighting?
They're going to be coming on Thursday. They're gonna dig the trench
Okay.
and remove the cement out here and
Yes.
put a pole up down at the corner.
Okay, great. Under correspondence for information, we have the tactical basin plan, which includes the West River and the Connecticut rivers, from the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, and it looks like
Quite the packet.
great reading. And I emailed something to the Conservation Commission, and you did also. Was this,
Yes.
they got this too? Okay, so, and have you read through this already?
No, no.
Okay,
I would like to see it once you're done.
okay, I'll bring it to our next meeting, I
Okay.
guess, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyone who's interested can read it and see what information and proposals they have. So there's a meeting on the same evening. We have our hazard mitigation meeting planned on the 19th for the shared municipal services. And this is something that Windham Regional Commission started last summer. And it was pretty interesting, I guess. We'll be here, I guess. But we could ask that we be kept in the loop.
Is there someone else that you would ask to go in our stead and report back to us?
Let's see. I would normally say our select board assistant, but she might be pretty important in this hazard mitigation plan. She has some background on that. I wonder, our town clerk or town clerk assistant?
We can check with that. I think the town clerk won't be here.
Oh, you know, what they're really interested in is getting to use, our blower and some of these other towns' equipment. So Lee would be a natural one to do, but he's going to
He
be,
needs to be at the hazard mitigation meeting.
so,
We can ask them to send us copies of everything.
yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they're having it that night since Windham Region was the one who scheduled the hazard mitigation plan
Yeah.
meeting, so,
Yeah, that is a little odd, isn't it?
yeah, but
So, well, let's get in touch with them and think about it.
do you want me to contact them?
Sure.
Okay.
That sounds good to everyone else? We just had a letter from Chris Dugan regarding the Renault gravel pit and those fees that had been, or penalties that had been paid by Renault. And then apparently there was another truck that tried to go through the covered bridge. And their insurance company will be taking care of the damages.
I didn't see what the damage was. Did you?
Yeah, I looked at it this morning, it's not that bad, it's,
Uh-huh.
it's just sort of the trim, I guess.
On the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
From the West River side, or, I mean, the Route 30 side?
No, it's on the other side.
East, west.
Yeah.
Huh, okay. So any other discussion of those topics? Under unfinished business, we still have the personnel policy revisions.
Steve and I are still working on that.
Okay, and we could review the budget, but I don't see, we had some new information come in, but
I didn't do new sheets because there were so few submissions
Yeah,
that I didn't.
that came
Not
in.
worth the paper.
I don't know what everyone else feels, but I feel like we wouldn't be doing a whole lot to
Right.
work on it much right now. and we'll wait till we get anything, what's your thought?
Oh, no, I think that's fine. There is I think there's gonna be a $2,000 one-time fee with the state of Vermont and a $400 fee that I'll have to get more information on about the stormwater runoff plan, and I think I got all that at the meeting, but maybe it got forwarded to you too.
No, but I know that they have increased the fee significantly.
Yeah, I think it's a $2,000 one-time fee, which I think will hit next year.
And what's that for,
Budget.
Steve?
It's for stormwater runoff control from our town roads. The state is, at this point, really concentrating on the Lake Champlain area, but all the state is gonna have to come up with a control plan for any sediment that's washing into waterways. So any road that abuts a waterway, or particularly the West River, the Connecticut River, or any stream, if there's water that's going directly into it, we need to mitigate how fast it goes in the air, how much dirt, silt gets carried. So as a way to raise some money so they can contribute to some of these programs, I'm pretty sure there's a $2,000 one-time fee, and then I think it's 400 and something.
So that they can help us do this.
Yeah, I don't imagine there's gonna be much help, but yeah. Yeah. And at some point, we're gonna have to go around with Lee and do an inventory of all our roads and where water's running off the road and into streams. And we're a little fortunate in that I think we're 3 years down the road where they're concentrating basically on Lake Champlain right now. But, it's gonna be a significant charge to the towns.
Mhm. Okay.
And I will get those figures, or Lori can. I'm pretty sure I got them at the league meeting, but we need to budget that, I think, next year.
Okay, any other budget thoughts, ideas? Okay, under new business, we got a request from the school nurse. She's requesting some funds. $159.49 is what she's requesting from the Miller Fund to help with the purchase of 2 pairs of eyeglasses for some students that are eligible for this. So what would you like to do?
I guess I'd move the withdrawal of $159.49 out of the Miller Fund to cover the 2 pairs of glasses for the children in need.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, Lori, could you let her know that,
I will. I'll
Okay.
email her tonight.
great. Under other business, does anyone have any other business?
Just one note,
All right,
because it came up earlier, and that is that large tractor trailer that's was parked down by the Rock River is now gone. So, and I did see it operate there one day unloading material. So I think it is for the power company.
It was tied to the power. I actually meant to tell you, I stopped and talked to the guys there one day.
Mhm.
It was part of the power company deal.
Yeah.
okay,
So I did talk with Sam in response to the Fish Road decision, and he understands our rationale in passing that, and he just wanted to, as a resident, encourage us to think about policies around road classification and to be able to refer to policy rather than to take things on a case-by-case basis, so.
okay. Any other business?
Next week's budget meeting, will that begin at 6 as well on?
Want to begin at 6, or do you want to begin sooner?
I like 5, but
I'm out of town, so I won't be available.
Either one.
Joe,
I'd say go with 5.
you're okay with 5?
Yep.
I'm okay with 5. Let's meet at 5.
Thank you.
Sure. And the housing mitigation plan meeting, what time does,
6 to 8.
okay.
So Lori, could you help me stay abreast of the things that happen at the budget meeting?
Sure.
You know, in terms of even just the things that were discussed or the particular areas where
Sure.
finances were
Yeah, sure.
added.
Yeah,
That
I'm
would
sure
be great.
any of us would be happy to
Right.
keep you in the loop.
Good.
Yeah. Right, and if you're away and you have any particular thoughts, you can email us and
I just don't wanna,
put in your,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, I could all tell you about, let's see, what. I
got
could
some
find-
I'll
stories.
move we adjourn before Zeke gets started.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Well, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You were quick on
Ah.
that.
He's
You
I
saw
can't
it
let
coming.
Zeke get started.
You
I-
saw it coming.